The cloud. There we go. All right. So the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we cover in Sandler is no pain, no sale. If we understand what the problem is and we have a solution for it, we're going to go through the prospect's problem, their pain. We're going to talk about their budget, and we're going to deep into budget here. Budget isn't just money. When we're going to go through how they make decisions, and if we can figure that anything out, then we might try to sell them something. But if we don't have a qualified person, they have pain we can solve for, they have budget we can accept, and they have a decision-making process we're willing to deal with, then we're not going to sell them anything. We're here to either get a yes or a no. And sometimes no's are more important than the yes, because it keeps us from wasting our time. And really what we want to do is help them discover their real pain. So any questions coming out of last week? Anyone have anything that they want to raise their hand on and just say, hey, Chris, there was a topic, there was a story, there was something that you covered that we weren't comfortable with? Nope, we're good. All right, so you'll hear me talk frequently about the Sandler rules. Am I sharing my screen? Can you guys see my PowerPoint? You can't see my PowerPoint, can you? Right? So, things we're going to cover, things we're going to learn. We don't want to answer unanswered asked questions. We don't want to get between a prospect and where they want to go. And we want to build rapport with them. We want to bond with them. We want them to trust us. People buy from people they like. People buy from people they trust, right? Every buying decision is made emotionally and justified intellectually. So because of that, we don't want them to buy in spite of us. They want us to be our partner in there. Okay, and here's that last part. You can't sell anybody anything until they discover they want it. People buy emotionally, they justify intellectually. So the first point of the submarine, I'll go back to here, right? First thing is bonding and rapport. Think about the last several times you bought something, a car, an apartment, a large TV, clothes. Typically, we're buying from people that we have a relationship with. We might have met them 20 minutes before this, but we've at least felt comfortable with them. If we didn't, we're turning around, we're walking away. So that's why the first part is bonding and rapport. And we do this through several techniques. So today we're going to cover the roles of active participation and active listening, the three elements of communication, communication theories and models. And the last topic we're going to go through is protecting the prospect's okayness. And I know okayness is a word, you're going to hear me say it often because it's appropriate for what we're going to talk about today. So here it is. I've said this how many times? All things being equal, people buy from people they like. People like people who are like themselves. Hence, people buy from people who are like themselves. If you think about your inner circle, your circle of friends, we would typically share common interests, common values. I'm seeing some head nodding. Right? And within that group of friends, it's important that you share similar values, similar outlooks. You don't all have to be exactly alike. You've got the loud guy, you've got the quiet guy. You've got the guy that speaks his mind, you've got the more reserved guy. But you typically don't hang around with a lot of scumbags, I'm hoping. I saw some smirks. We all might have that one guy that we kind of are questionable about, but he seems to be kind of fun, right? The point being is that sales is the same thing. People who are like one another tend to like one another. Let me say that again. People who are like one another tend to like one another. And people who are like one another tend to trust one another. And so that's why we're here, because people tend to do business with people they trust. People buy from people they trust. So I want to kind of dig deeper into that. I know Matt and Kurt's status. Kaleo, I know your status. David, I'm not really sure we're getting to know you. But think about your relationships with your partners, with your spouses. You talk all the time. They talk all the time. People don't want to just be listened to. They want to be heard. More important than being heard is what? Being understood. So all things being equal, people buy from people they like. People buy from people like themselves. People buy from people who are like themselves. So one of the most important things we will teach, stop talking. Stop selling features and benefits. Ask questions. Listen for the answers. Confirm their answers and make sure that they're not just being listened to, they're being heard, and they know they're being understood. We do this through a process called active listening. So, active listening, active participation. So we're going to go through right now quickly the elements of communication, active listening techniques, and what we call PSD, or primary sensory dominance. If we have time, we'll get into transactional analysis, but we're definitely digging deeper into behavioral styles. So this first part, the elements of communication. This defines parts of how we communicate. First part is how we communicate. The second component of active listening techniques, we're going to deal with giving and receiving feedback on how people communicate with us. The final part, the PSD part, it's how people process the world around them. And this is primarily through visual, auditory, or kinesthetic messages. So I've been talking for a little bit, but now it's class participation time. So, how do you communicate with people?
Verbally and with your body language.
Verbally, body language. Anyone else?
Through your actions.
I go back to the body language part of it. Verbally, I'll break down into two things. What are the two parts of verbal communication?
Words.
Yep.
And I read ahead, tonal,
Bingo.
tonality.
Bingo. So here's the thing I would say. You cannot not communicate. You cannot not communicate. Everything you do sends out a message. When two or more people are close enough to each other to see, or hear each other, they're communicating. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, whether it's conscious or unconsciously, verbally or non-verbally, you are communicating. David, I'm going to make you the example. You're in Chicago.
Okay,
You ride the L very often.
I do.
If you walk on the L and somebody walks in, they don't say a word, so we don't know their tone, we don't know their words, and they stand a foot from you with their eyes open and stare at you a foot from you. Are they communicating with you?
They are.
Right?
Pretty loud and clear.
Likewise, if you're going to ride the L, you put your earbuds in, you got your phone out or your iPad out, and you walk on that train, you don't make contact with anybody, and you sit down and you've never made eye contact and you sit down. Are you communicating with people?
Yep.
Pretty loud and clear, leave me alone. Pretty loud and clear, don't talk to me. Right? You're consciously avoiding making eye contact with any person. You're looking away, you're staring at your device, you're staring at the ceiling, you're staring at your phone, you're staring at your feet. Your actions are sending a message. Even when you're not trying to communicate with those people, you are communicating with them. You're communicating to them, leave me alone. Okay? Let's talk about something else. Think you're at a movie theater, right? A couple of teenagers in front of you have no interest in being there to watch the movie. They're there to socialize. They're there to pick on each other. They're there to be obnoxious teenagers. They're talking, they're texting. Without using words, how can you communicate to them that you're annoyed by them to knock it off?
Give them
Smack him in the back of the head.
Okay, I wasn't going to go physical first, but yes, that's communicating.
Clear my throat.
That's communicating. Matt, I know what you would do.
I do the turn and stare.
I would kick their chair. I thought you would go right to kick their chair.
I guess
Right.
if they're in front of me, I'd have to kick their chair. Yeah. If they're behind me, I'm gonna do the full turn around and stare.
Yeah. The old, right? Again, no words, no tone. It's all our physiology, it's all our body language. We're communicating. All right? Kick their seats, clear their throat, tap them on the shoulder. Anyone want to cover my favorite way of communicating without actually saying any words? I'm still a big fan of this one.
I was
Right.
gonna say,
I'm in Detroit, man. This is what we do. Okay. I'm pretty sure, even though I didn't use a word or a tone, if I walk up and do this to you, you know exactly what I'm trying to communicate, right? So, what's most important? Our words, our tone, or our body language?
Body language, I think.
Absolutely. So actually, there's three elements of communication. There's our words, there's our tone, and our body language. And I don't know the math on this, but it's something like 70% or 68% of our communication is based on our body language, our physiology. The next part, I think it's like 35% is our tone. And our tone is our tempo, our pitch, our inflection, our volume. The last part is the actual words we use. Anyone ever get an email from somebody at the bottom? It says, please understand, tone cannot be communicated through email, right?
Yep.
Don't sell by email. They don't understand your tone. They don't understand your physiology, and you don't understand theirs. So first, I'm going to start with, oh, I'll go back to that. And our elements of communication is our tone. Tone is tempo. It's how fast we speak. Anyone ever talk with someone? It just seems like you want to rip the words out of their mouth because they're talking so slow. Anyone deal with anyone that said way too much coffee and they talk like they're trying to speed rap and you just can't understand what they're saying and you're just going, Jesus, what is wrong with this person? Wouldn't it slow the fuck down? Right? Tempo. How fast they talk is very important. What about pitch? At what high or low do they speak? We all know that guy that sounds like a gospel singer. Their voice is always low, right? We also know those people that talk with a very high voice, okay? Part of our tone is also our inflection. Do they emphasize words at the end of a sentence? Do they ask questions and ask, is this okay? The kind of mother, may I speak? Do you have a minute? How do they resonate words? Do they hold certain syllables? Do they hold certain words? Do they emphasize certain words in their sentence? And also the volume. Do they get louder or do they get quieter? All of those things come back to tone. So, can you think of any instances on where volume, tone, resonance might be important? Everyone see this slide?
Yep.
Now this is in print, but if you're reading these out loud, can you see that the proper italicized word changes the message of what we're trying to say? I never said we should kill him. I never said we should kill him. I never said we should, right? This is tone. So here's my favorite one. Four words. Any cat lovers on here? Anyone have a cat? Good. I always have to ask that question before we do this. Kaleo. Four simple words. I killed the cat. I killed the cat. Say them as if you didn't know you killed the cat.
I killed the cat.
Right?
I killed the cat.
David.
I killed the cat.
Say those same words as if you hated the frickin' cat.
I killed the cat. Oh, sorry.
Right? Matt, say those words as if you're regretful and you're remorseful and you can't believe you killed the cat.
I killed the cat.
Kurt, say them as if you're a homicidal maniac and you're excited that you killed the cat.
I killed the cat.
Right? Same four words. Do we now understand how much tone impacts the words that we're using? Okay. Our tone is more important than the words that we use. And there's a reason why I'm hammering this home. People buy from people they like, people buy from people they trust. Okay. Think about how, because I have a 12-year-old daughter, think about the tone of her sarcasm and the rolling of the eyes and stuff like that. Harper, how was school today? Yeah, it was great. Okay. The word great tells me she had a great day at school. The way she said, oh, it was great, really tells me a much different message. Right? Think about your buddies. You tend to give your buddies a hard time. If they weren't your buddies, if they're your friends, you can give them as much crap as you want. If they're not your friends, you don't give them the time of day kind of thing, right? Hey, David, great at bat, buddy. After you just struck out. Great at bat, buddy sounds very positive, but the great at bat, right? Our tone. We have to know what our tone is messaging to our prospects, to the people we're dealing with. Because even if we're not trying to communicate, we are communicating. Let's talk about body language. What are some elements of body language? Not finger gestures. I already covered this, right? What is your body language? What do you need to be conscious of if you're talking to somebody with your body language?
That I'm interested in paying attention.
Yep. And how do you show people you're paying attention?
Looking at them.
Eye contact. There's no engineers on this call, but I always make this joke. How do you tell you're dealing with an extroverted engineer? He stares at your shoes. Right? Eye contact. Number one. What else? Everyone see how Kurt's sitting?
Yeah, I was gonna say don't cross your arms, and
It's not don't cross your arms, but just be conscious of it, right? Crossing your arms. It's part of your body language, right? Everyone's had that appointment where they were going to sit down against somebody because a lawyer was going to be in the room, because it might be confrontational. And the first thing they do is they sit down and they go, right? Sends a message. At the same time, it's a comfortable way to sit.
yeah,
I sit like this.
that
all
one's
the
a
time.
tricky one. That one's a tricky one for me sometimes when we're just talking with clients for a long time. I'll tend to just want to do that, to just give my arms something to do.
Yeah, because you're getting bored because they're repeating themselves 5 extra times.
Yeah, or whatever. So it's, there is a lot that's communicated with it, and I've been trying to be more conscious of it and careful of that.
So Matt's already kind of learning the material. Our body language, our posture, our eye contact communicates with people. Let's talk about facial expressions, right? I already talked about my daughter. The eye roll, right? I tend to do this one a lot. Like, really? That furrowed brow where I'm just kind of like, did you really just say that? Right? If somebody comes into my kitchen and says, all right, the job's done, looks great, and there's still not light fixtures on the wall and there's electrical dangling, and you say, it, all right, it's done. And I go, I pretty much communicated to you bullshit, right? Our facial expressions, we have to be conscious of them. Talking with our hands, right? Think about how many ways you can communicate. Small, large, right? This all works. And so what I would share with all of you, I'm teaching this more and more now that we're living in a virtual environment. Because on these Zoom calls, when we're talking with somebody, how many first meetings are we having with somebody that might be in a virtual environment? You have to be conscious of it. I stacked my monitors top and bottom because I was side-by-side guy, and the camera might be over here, but the material that I needed to talk about was over here. I felt like everyone was getting taught by my ear, right? Again, in the environment we're in now, your body language, somebody's talking to you and they look over and you're doing this. What's this communicating?
I'm
Not paying
listening.
attention.
You're the
Give a
second
shit.
priority to me. Maybe second. It might be third or fourth. So be conscious that if you're using a dual monitor, don't work on the monitor where your camera isn't. I'm so conscious of the fact that the material and the slides that I have are on this monitor, but I try to keep it lower on the screen so it still looks like I'm talking to my camera, even though I'm looking directly above my camera. And I don't know, maybe I'm completely fooling myself that it's not working, but if I'm staring at my computer this way, I'm not looking at the camera, I'm not looking at you guys, I'm looking at the PowerPoints above you. Does it seem like I'm still looking at you?
A little, but now that you've given away your secret,
Damn it. But Kaleo, I'll say this, which is better, that one or this one? Okay.
Depends on how nice your profile is, I guess. You know?
Yeah, right. Did I trim my sideburns today?
Yeah, you
Did I
trimmed up
shave?
pretty well, you know.
Trying, Matt. At least
All
I'm not
right.
wearing cargo pants anymore. Alex, give me the crap on that one.
Yeah, you got sweatpants on today, buddy.
Dude, they're
Yeah, I was gonna
khakis.
say, guaranteed.
Kurt and Alec and Matt have a product manager named Alex that tends to want to judge everyone's cargo pants or any what do they call them? Media pockets, like the pants with the pocket for your phone.
Show pockets or whatever.
Yeah.
Matt thinks that he just doesn't say it.
I've said it a few times.
Right. But the point being, our facial expressions, our gestures, our body movements, our posture, our eye contact, it all matters. Right? Come to a meeting and slouch down and sit like this doesn't come off as very professional. Okay? How you shake someone's hand, right? I'm sure we were all taught at some point in our life to give a firm handshake because when you're a kid, you just kind of give them that dead fish, right? We're communicating. We don't have to be the creepy Donald Trump 20-minute handshake and grab the wrist and everything else, but we're communicating when we're doing that. So think about that. Slumped over posture, folded arms, refusal to make eye contact, any angry gestures, right? Think about other ones,
smiling.
right? Any other
That's-
nonverbal messages you can think of?
That smiling one's a hard time because, when I walk up to somebody's door to talk to them about a project, it's like, okay, you got to forget everything that you just had a conversation with somebody about in the truck, and you need to smile so they know I'm paying attention to them, I'm warm, I'm friendly, and I'm interested in what they are going to be telling me.
And here's the thing, guys, we have to have short memories. We have to be like a goldfish, right? I have been on a call expecting a yes or no on a 6-figure deal and gotten a no. And it was the right no. It wasn't the right solution for their problem. I still wanted their 6 figures, but it wasn't the right solution for their problem. And seconds later, had to be on another call, on a first call, and seemed like everything was right in my world. I could have gone on that call and, right, but no, I had to change everything. I had to have a short memory, and I had to make sure that my tone and my body language was appropriate for that. So think about other nonverbal stuff. A wink, high five, right? Everyone know what this is,
Time out.
right?
Yep.
Technical.
Well, also technical. And you know what? Have fun with these, right? If someone's on a ramble and you need to tell them, hey, just slow down, right? We do this. I'm also a college basketball fan. So if somebody does this to me, I put it right back at them. Do you want the full or do you want the 20-second? Any college basketball fans? Referee signal, this is the 20-second timeout. This is the full timeout, right? Raising an eyebrow, right? Your
Nodding.
fist at somebody, a yawn. So let me go back to the chart. I've got my numbers wrong. 55% of our body language, 55% of our communication is our body language. 38% is the tone. What's the smallest piece of that pie?
Spoken word.
The words we actually use. Okay. Communication involves more than just words. The words typically convey the least amount of information, right? Like I said, hey, Kurt, great job in that kitchen. Is much different than, hey, Kurt, dude, great job on that kitchen, right? Cleo, I really appreciate you helping my grandmother. Hey, Cleo, I really appreciate you helping my grandmother, right? Tone, physiology, facial tics, more important than the words. Hey, Matt, if I were a betting man, I would bet that you could tell whether Kurt was happy or upset before he said a word.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes he can be complicated to read a little bit.
I disagree. I think he is like me, and we have no secrets. We wear our emotions on our exterior, right? And that's okay. Some of us are very extroverted people. We're gregarious. We're outgoing. We are the life of the party. We are the center of the room. We are oversharers. We can intimidate some people. So the point of this and why I'm saying this is people buy from people they like, and people buy from people like themselves. If you are always the center of attention, the loudest guy in the room, don't overwhelm the quieter and shyer people. Mirror them, match them, change your volume, change the rate of your speech, change your tone, right? People buy from people they like. People buy from people like themselves. So we're going to dive deeper into what's called disc profiles in a minute. But does everyone understand what I'm saying? That we control our physiology, our gestures, our facial expressions, our inflection, our volume, the rate of our speech. Everyone now understand that it's not the words we use. We're communicating even when we don't think we're communicating. Good?
Yep.
Anyone else want to do an I killed the cat reference and be a little psychotic for a minute? Right? I mean, it's funny because sometimes I'll do that and we have cat lovers in the room and they get really disturbed by this.
Yeah.
All right. So when we talk about communicating with people, there's a technique we use that's called active listening. Let me share the slide. And if you're in your workbook, it's page 18. So there's two ways that we do active listening. We restate what they're saying or we paraphrase it. Because remember, I just said, people don't just want to be heard, they want to be understood. There's a big difference between hearing their words and understanding their words. So if we learn that communication is much more than the words that we speak, we need to communicate back to people that we're understanding what they're saying, specifically that we know what they are trying to communicate with us. So we do this with feedback. We need some type of feedback from the person in order to know that we heard them. I'm sorry, we need to give them some sort of communication that we heard them, that we understood them. So let me just go right from the book here. Hearing refers to the physiological activity of perceiving sound. Listening involves paying attention to the sound. The following exchange between two people provides a good illustration of this difference. Yeah, I'm going to skip that. So, anyone have a spouse, a partner, a parent say, I know you're listening, but I don't think you heard me. Right?
Yep.
Listening just isn't the words. The hearing is the understanding part of it, because that's what people want. They want to be understood. So we use a technique called active listening, and I will share this with you. How many of you know that guy that always interrupts you in the middle of your sentence? Or that girl? Every one of their sentences start right in the middle of yours. You can never finish a thought with them. And they're combative listening. Yeah, I went to Hawaii on vacation. Oh, great, I went twice last year. I didn't ask. Right, the overshare. Hey, did you go hunting this weekend? Yeah, it was great. Got an 8-point. Oh, that's cool. I got 2 9-points last weekend. Right? Or that person that you can tell isn't listening to you. They're just waiting for you to finish so that they can start speaking and telling you about themselves.
Yeah, their mouth is starting to move already and nothing's coming out.
We had an old CFO that I almost punched in a meeting once in my previous life. And I finally, in a meeting, just stopped and said, it's amazing how every one of your sentences starts in the middle of mine. Dude, shut up, right? There was nothing I was going to say that he was going to actually listen to, because he had already thought in his brain his response before I even finished my thought. I don't like those people. I want to punch them. We're not communicating. They're just there to dump their nonsense on me. So think about your prospects. If they ask a question that you already know the answer to because you've been asked this question a million times before, wait, listen, hear them. And we do that through 2 methods. One is called restatement. It's exactly just restating the words that they used. The other is paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is actually taking a moment to translate it into your words into what you heard. So let me give you an example. Talking about my wife, Anne Marie. I talk about her a lot in here. I can't believe I don't have a picture of her in my office. Here, we have my son. There's Gannon. All right. That's my metal guy. He turns 11 in a couple weeks. Very proud of him. If Gannon comes home from school and goes, hey, bud, how was your day? And he goes, oh, we had a social studies test. I completely forgot the study guide and I didn't study for it. And then at recess, I lost a shoe. And then Jack Kay and I were wrestling and I fell in the mud. And Mrs. Polanki yelled at me for it. If I turn around to him, I go, where the hell was your study guide? And what are you doing wrestling? Right? I can tell he had a bad day and all I'm doing is going to yell at him isn't going to help him. That's my initial instinct. If I paraphrase it or I restate it back to him, restating would sound like this. Hey, buddy, sounds like you had a rough day. I mean, if you forgot your study guide at home for your social studies test, and then Jack K and you were wrestling on the bus and Mrs. P yelled at you for it, man, that sounds like a tough day. What did I do? I just used his
Restated.
exact words and restated it back to him. Likewise, if he would have said that same thing, oh, Dad, I bombed my social studies exam because I forgot my study guide. And then Jack K and I were wrestling and I lost my shoe and Mrs. P yelled at me and I got all covered in mud. And I yell at him, or I can say, oh, buddy, it sounds like you had a rough day. I mean, exams are never easy. And I know how much you love social studies. That's going to be rough. And, you know, Mrs. P's always kind of been picking on you. We love Mrs. Plonky, but if you and Jack K are wrestling, man, you're going to get muddy. I hear you. Why don't we focus on this tomorrow? Can you bring your study guide home? Can together we maybe work on it? Right? It's a much softer. I can just hear him and yell at him, or I can actually understand him and kind of go through it. Now with my wife, she comes home, I go, hey, honey, how was your day? And she goes, internet was down again. And the fridge in the cafeteria and the teacher's lounge smells like tuna fish, and it's driving me crazy. I was going to puke there. And all I really want to do is go upstairs, get a glass of wine, and take a bath. And I start trying to coach her through that. Well, you know, there's a hotspot on your phone you could have used. And, you know, if the teacher's on spells, you could just eat in your own classroom. Am I really being a good husband at that point? Am I really supporting her? She doesn't want me to fix the internet. That's for damn sure. And I can do nothing about the teacher's lounge and the way it spells. And yeah, I bought the wine and I can go draw the bath, but does she really want me to do that, or she just need a minute to bitch and be heard? So if I paraphrase that and go, geez, honey, that sounds like a horrible day. If I'm hearing you right, glass of wine and a bath is what you need. Forget about the internet. Forget about the teacher's lounge. Why don't you go upstairs? I got the kids. Take a load off and relax. The difference between hearing her and understanding her is that active listening technique and paraphrasing it back or restating it back to her. So let's practice this. Kaleo, tell David in 3 sentences or less one great experience about Hawaii, and then David, restate it back to Kaleo. Not paraphrase it,
David.
restate it back to him.
David, man, I got to tell you, out of the 10 days we're in Hawaii, got to the beach every day, and one of those days was an epic swell. So we had some great waves.
Well, Kaleo, I'm glad you got to the beach in Hawaii. Great weather, great beach. You got to get some waves. Sounds like you had a great trip.
Sounds like
Bingo.
you heard me.
Matt, think about your last client. Let's not talk about beaches and waves. Let's talk about something they wanted in a kitchen project. 3 goals that they had. Don't be one of the people we've talked about, like Deck Lady or the person that name's rhymes with hell. Give us a good example of a client that has told you something. 3 elements that they wanted, or 3 elements of their kitchen or bath project, and let's see if Kurt can actively listen and paraphrase it back to you.
You want me to just state it to him as what they told me? Is that what you're
Conversational.
saying?
Put yourself in their shoes.
Okay, so as if I'm them is what you're saying.
There you go.
Hey Kurt, I'm looking to in my kitchen here to have a larger island that I can have my family sit around when we have breakfast. I'd like to have more storage in a pantry, and I'd like the lighting in this kitchen to be a lot better, because right now we can barely see what's on the counter.
So Matt, if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're telling me is having a larger island is important, especially at breakfast time, but I'm sure at other family meals and get-togethers. And you don't have quite enough storage, which we can accomplish that in your kitchen. And we can definitely improve your lighting by, installing additional LED recessed lights.
All right, Kurt, I got to pick on you. I turned my camera off and everything, so I wouldn't be present for it. You're already solving their problem. We can install LEDs. I can get you more storage. All we want to do is make sure that they're heard. And
Okay.
that it's understood.
Yep.
Because let's think about this, right? We are masters of what we do. We are experts in our field. Someone brings us a problem. The first thing that we start doing is thinking of the solution. And because of that, we frequently go right towards features and benefits in our conversations. If I was going to do that a little bit differently, it'd sound like this. Yeah, Matt, I hear you, man. Sounds like your kitchen is pretty important to your family. It's kind of your space. So if I'm hearing you right, if you had 3 top priorities, you need a bigger island. You need somewhere for the family to congregate because you have a lot of meals. And because of that, you have a lot of kitchen stuff. So you need better storage. And at the end of the day, the lighting isn't very good. So you need us to really lighten up the room. Did I hear you right? Okay. I'm not solving anything. I'm just letting him know that I'm understanding what he's looking for.
Yep. I get it.
All 3 of you deal with people that you're not selling widgets, right? You're not selling something like a mortgage or a financial or a price. You're selling something emotional. David, is real estate emotional?
It is very much so.
Kaleo, is healthcare emotional? Matt and Kurt, you are dealing with people's homes. Can they be emotional about that?
Oh yeah.
They want to be understood. Because the easy thing for me to say to Matt is, all right, Matt, well, we've got a number of different kitchen islands, countertops. We're going to have to decide whether or not you want granite, you want Formica. Does anyone use Formica anymore, by the way? Or is that just like 90s stuff? Nevertheless.
It still happens.
All right, so if I'm hearing you right, you need a new island. We're going to have to select the cabinets. We're going to have to select the countertops. We're going to select the appliances that go in there. Also, as far as the lighting goes, we've got a number of different options. We've got LEDs. We've got halogens, we've got those dimmer switches and stuff. Depending on what you're looking for, the price is going to vary depending on what we have in stock. Oh, and by the way, as far as the storage goes, we've got a partner cabinet company that we work with. So you're going to have to pick out the wood, the veneer, right? I'm already in selling mode. Did I really understand them or hear them, or am I just already trying to solve problems for them?
I'm so guilty of that.
We all are.
I think it's tough because we hear, you go into a kitchen remodel situation, you kind of hear one of 2 or 3 scenarios for how people use their kitchen, and it's easy to want to lump them into one and then just take off running.
And so with this active listening technique, we can normally uncover more information, right? Wow, island sounds pretty important to your family. How big is your family? How old are the kids? Is this a short-term solution? Is this a long-term solution? Do you ever have more people than just your family? I mean, do you host like Christmas and your aunts and your uncles and everyone come over? Do the kids have a lot of friends over a lot of times? Like what do you really, how big does this island have to be, right? By actively listening and hearing and understanding them and asking more questions, we're going to be much better off, because going back to the Sandler rule, people buy from people they like. People buy from people like themselves. You guys sell emotional things. People buy emotionally and justify with the data. We want to make sure that we're meeting them where they are. We're understanding them. Everyone good on this? Everyone understand where I'm going with this? I'll take it a step further, where, and Kurt has seen me do this several times. And actually, Kaleo, when you and I spoke, I was asking all kinds of questions about, well, who's your business person? Who's your HR person? And how long did it go to mom start the company? Like, I was asking all these questions for several reasons. One, I'm a naturally curious person, right? I tend to ask a lot of questions. Two, it lets you know that I'm actually engaged in this and I'm not just trying to sell you something, I'm trying to get you a solution. If I don't have a solution to your pain, ethically, I shouldn't be doing it. But it helps me build that bonding, build that rapport with you to really let you know that I care and I'm understanding what you're looking for. It really helps to break down that wall that buyers put up. We talked about lie, steal, lie, hide. If I'm actually active listening and you're hearing that I'm understanding you, you're more likely to share more information with me. There's a group I'm working with out of Houston right now that does non-destructive testing, NDT. You guys know what NDT is? NDT is stuff like radiography. Big giant machines that will X-ray a weld on an oil and gas pipeline. They have to inspect the weld without tapping into it to see if it works. They sell the cameras, the borescopes, that will go into an aircraft engine and inspect the engine between every certain number of hours or miles or stuff like that. This non-destructive testing. They talk in more technical terms and acronyms than you would believe. I mean, they're as bad as the military. Think about the military, right? Military, everything was an acronym. My favorite being FUBAR and TARFU. Everyone know FUBAR and TARFU? Kaleo, you get to swear. What does FUBAR stand for?
Fucked up beyond belief.
Fucked up beyond all recognition.
Hmm.
Dave, you know what TARFU stands for?
That one I'm not quite sure of.
Things are really fucked up. And it normally goes from snafu to TARFU to FUBAR. And what snafu is?
Oh,
Situation normal, all fucked up. Situation was normal, now it's all fucked up, right? Hey, Sergeant, how's it going? Oh, we got a snafu here. Hey, Sergeant, how's it going? TARFU. Hey, Sergeant, how's it going? FUBAR, right? If you understand snafu, TARFU, FUBAR, you understand what they're saying. So I do this with my clients all the time. Just yesterday, or two days ago, with Julia, Steve Z, and Johnny Gibson. Well, Digital Rad is doing well, but Field Rad is kind of struggling right now. If we're going to look at the NDT, we're going to figure out what the film's going on with those clients. And also when we're dealing with oil, gas, and I had to stop and go, all right, guys, can you help me with this? Field Rad is field radiography, right? Okay. And these are the portable units. These are the portable X-ray machines. X-ray is the right term. Oh, yeah, Chris. Large rad. These are the larger scanners and machines that would be in like a manufacturing plant, right? These are not mobile. These are not, this is, you're selling them a $500,000 piece of equipment that is going into a manufacturing facility and not moving. And every medical device, every pacemaker, every battery goes through this thing and is scanned. That's large rad. Yeah, Chris, that is. Okay, gotcha. Because sometimes our prospects use their own acronyms or use their own terms, and we're too embarrassed to say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's the active listening, paraphrasing part of it. Well, I will stop people and ask them specifically, I'm sorry, I'm not getting that. What is large rad? Or I'll do that paraphrasing. If I'm hearing you right, large rad is large radiography, and it's the bigger machines that go into the plant, right? I'm not trying to sell them anything. I need to understand them. I need to hear them. We're going to get to this down the road, but when you're talking to your clients, no buzzwords, right? David, you deal with mortgage guys all the time, right?
I do.
If I was going to sit down with somebody and try to sell them a mortgage, and I started with stuff like, well, first thing we got to figure out is your DTI, see where your credit score lands you on your DTI, because your DTI is going to affect your LTV. And once we figure out what your LTV is, we can finally afford how much of a house you're going to qualify for. It's all going to depend on the appraisal, but I'll get that on your TIL, your truth in lending statement, and then your 4506 you're going to have to give me to show me how much you make.
So far over their head.
Right? DTI, LTV, till 4506. David, you and I know exactly what those terms are. TIL is the truth in lending statement. It's required to be signed before any mortgage goes through. Your DTI is your debt to income, how much money you make compared to what your debts are on your credit report. LTV is the loan to value. What's the appraised value? Meaning how much percentage of a loan can we give you as that value? If your client is using words like this and you don't understand them, this is the active listening part where you can stop them and say, hey, just so I'm on the same page with you. LTV stands for, right? Now you're engaged. Now you're not just trying to sell them a solution. You're actually understanding them. It gives you a chance to ask the right questions. Man, it looks like you've got a thought you were going to say something.
Just listening.
Kaleo, when people talk to you about care for their family, they want to be understood. They don't want to be sold. They want to be understood.
We got a lot of a lot of acronyms in workers' comp, and so yeah, especially with claims adjusters, so I like that you're bringing this up. I also don't want to be the acronym guy and talking to a client that might not know the ins and outs of a claim, a workers' comp claim, even though they may be the risk manager. So to be cautious, it's okay to go ahead and, use a full term like a doctor's first report of injury instead of, there's some kind of a number that's associated with that report in California. Yeah, because being on the other end and not understanding, I don't want to put my potential prospect in the position of what is this guy talking about? Because more than likely, they're not going to stop me and say, hey, I don't know all these acronyms you're firing at me.
And sometimes people think that it makes them sound smarter to drop all these buzzwords on there. Again, I before I did Sandler, I was big in digital marketing. I owned my own web agency. And if we went to people and we talked about, we're going to write this in HTML, or we're going to write this in HTML5, or, your old site's PHP and it doesn't have an SSL certificate on it. I'm speaking a foreign language to these people. All they wanted to know is, my website looks old and it doesn't show up well on a mobile device. Can you make it look better? If I want to talk about security, I wasn't going to use terms like SSL certificates or the sandbox, this kind of stuff. I had to break it down and make sure I heard what they were asking about, paraphrase it back to them, that I understood what they were asking about before I moved on any chance for a solution. It's very important. They're not just listened to, but they're heard and that they're understood. And this active listening and pushing it back to them is the best way that we can do this. Here's the psychology part of today. I'm going to move on from that topic. If everyone's good on that, everyone knows the paraphrasing, active listening, restating. Can I give everyone a challenge? Everyone a homework assignment? With somebody in your family, with somebody in your universe, could be your boss, could be your roommate, could be your partner, could be your kid. Do active listening with them today. Paraphrase what they said and see if they react to you differently. Right? Hey, how was your day today? Let them tell you, and then paraphrase it back to them. See if they open up more. In my case, don't pick my 12-year-old daughter. Hey, Harper, how was school today? Fine. Because it's awkward to go, so if I'm hearing you right, school today was fine. Right? It's awkward. All right. This next part, transactional analysis. The psychology of selling, a lot of it comes around this transactional analysis part. And to the point where I don't want to screw it up, so I'm going to actually pull up some notes and read some stuff to you guys. I apologize if it sounds like I'm reading, because I am reading it. Okay? So we're Sandler training. right? This is based on a methodology of philosophy created by a guy named David Sandler. So early in his career, Sandler set out to learn as much as he could about human behavior, to better understand why prospects act the way that they do, as well as what really motivates them to buy. That phase of his career laid the groundwork for the selling system that we're using today that bears his name. Produced this breakthrough observation. People make buying decisions emotionally, and they justify those decisions intellectually. You guys have already heard me say this several times, so I'm going to read that quote again. People make buying decisions emotionally. They justify those decisions intellectually. Today, just about everyone in sales acknowledges the wisdom of that observation and accepts that the prospect must be emotionally involved in the sale. I'm going to ask you guys this. I already have. You guys sell emotional decisions. A new home, a new kitchen, care for my family. Those are all very emotional things. They're not looking only at the bottom line. They're not looking at the only dollar. They're not looking at this as an investment. They're looking at this as a solution to something they're going to deal with every single day. So the question is, what does that mean to you guys? And how are we supposed to elicit those emotions from them? This intellectual observation, we have to observe them, right? That's our job as salespeople. So Sandler has a theory of psychology and psychotherapy known as transactional analysis, the TA you see up there. There's a book that I have tried to read 3 or 4 times, and it is so deep and detailed, but I get a little bit something from it every time. There's a psychiatrist named Eric Berne, B-E-R-N-E. The name of the book is Games People Play. And so in the late 50s, when Sandler was building the selling system, he used this transactional analysis as his human relations model. Because again, these are relationships, human relations. He used this transactional analysis to back up his explanations of the reasons buyers and us as sellers act the way we do. So TA is a theory, transactional analysis. There are 3 ego states: parent, adult, child. This transactional analysis theory, these are internal tape recorders where our childhood impressions, teachings, associated feelings are stored. So think back to you as a kid, right? And we did this last week. We had this behavior. We had this exercise. Don't talk to, somebody say it. Right? Don't
Strangers.
talk to strangers.
Stranger danger.
Don't speak unless,
Spoken to.
right? All this internal information, this tape recorder we had as a kid that was recording, our ego states are parent, adult, and child. So I'm going to break these down very, very simply. Parent ego state. The parent ego. Should I wait for Kaleo and Kurt to come back? Because this is going to get deep. Does everyone want to take 30 seconds, get a cup of coffee or a bathroom break? We'll let those guys come back. All right, 30-second break.
Sounds good to me.
All right, give it another 2-3 seconds. 'Cause this is a deeper topic that I want to make sure everyone is present.
Hey, Chris, what was the name of that author again on the book Games People Play?
Eric Berne, Berne.
Eric Berne. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's
Sleeper?
I mean, I've done the audiobook, I've done a couple different versions of it, but it's deep. It goes really deep into a lot of this stuff. All right, Kurt's back, and now David's all right, everyone's back. So let's break it down this way. So 3 ego states: parent, adult, child. Kurt, I'm going to say this again because I don't know if you're there.
No,
This
it's hard.
transactional analysis, these ego states, this all goes back to the tape recordings we had as kids, what we learned, what we experienced. And how we deal with people can be coming to them as a parent, a child, or an adult. So start with a parent. The recordings we had as kids, remember we did the don't speak unless spoken to,
Spoken
don't
to.
talk to strangers, that kind of thing. These recordings of what you saw your mother or father or your authority figures do, and what you heard them say during about your first 5 years of life. These recordings came into your brain unedited, right? Sometimes those parents' messages were critical, judgmental, or prejudicial. So here's an example. Your parents told you what was right and wrong, what was good and what was bad, what to do or what not to do. Those messages are referred to as the critical parent. So again, if my son Gannon comes back to me and says, you know, oh, I was wrestling with Jack K and Miss P yelled at me. And I say, well, what the hell were you doing wrestling with Jack K? Right? Jack Klobuchar and Jack Lochran are 2 of his buddies. So they go by Jack K and Jack L, just so you know. If I come back and go, what the hell were you doing wrestling with Jack K? I'm being critical, right? I am a critical parent to him in that moment. The other parent is the nurturing parent. Those messages are more warm, comforting, supporting, and loving. So in your book, if you look at parent, write down those 2 states: critical parent and nurturing parent. Because if Gannon comes to me and goes, oh, Dad, I had such a rough day. I was wrestling with Jack K. We got all muddy and Mrs. P yelled at me. I can go critical and go, the hell were you doing wrestling with Jack? You know you're not supposed to. Or I can go, oh, buddy, it sounds like you had a pretty rough day, right? Maybe you shouldn't be wrestling with Jack K. Maybe Mrs. P was right, right? There's 2 different messages in there. I'm both the authority. I'm the parent. But my reaction to him is either the critical parent or the nurturing parent. Okay. Next stage, the child ego state. The child ego state is the emotional component of our makeup. This is the permanent record of our internal responses to external experiences. I'm going to say that again. Permanent record, our internal responses to external experiences that occurred during those first 5 years of our life. It recorded our responses to what our parents and authority figures said and did to us. So here's in other words, well, the parent was recording what to say. Your parent ego state was recording what to say or how to act. Your child ego state was recording how you felt. Our child ego state is our feelings. So throughout your life, those feelings may replay when you are in certain situations that are like the ones you had as a child. So here's an example. When you feel unfairly accused of something, or you're dependent on something, or clumsy, those are our child tapes. Just like we have parent tapes, we have child tapes. Our child is our instincts, our intuition, our curiosity, our biological urges, our sense of physical self. Our child contains our joy, our sadness, our anger. It's our emotions. It's also our pleasure. It's also our rage. It's our calmness. So the parent tape is the have tos. The child is the want tos. These are our urges and our desires, right? When you were a kid, you had your want tos, right? Think about a 5-year-old. They're not going through and analyzing everything. If I eat a bunch of sugar, my teeth are going to rot and fall out. If I eat a bunch of sugar, I'm going to spoil my dinner. If I eat a bunch of sugar, you're right, I'm going to be all hyper and misbehaving. They're not thinking about that. These are the want tos. These are the urges. The parent is the have to, the child is the want to. The parent is the have to, the child is the want to. So where does that bring us to? The adult in the room. I'm going to read this out loud just because I don't know it well enough to explain it in my own words. When you're about 10 months old, you began to build understandings of your own. Crawling, climbing, eventually walking and exploring, taking in and processing information on your own. Eventually, you began to separate yourself from your mother and your father, and you began to develop your own intentions and reasons. Even at an early age, your adult began making its own recordings. You started making your own recordings based on logical evaluations of ideas. Unlike the parent, have to, and the child, want to, those stopped recording after about 5 years old. The adult in your life continues to revise and make new recordings throughout your life. The adult in you is still what's analyzing, and the referee between the demands of the parent, the have to, and the desires of the child, the want to. The adult is the computer part of it. The adult ego state is the analysis part of it. It's processing the data supplied by the have to of the parent and the want to of the child, as well as data it collects. The adult ego state, it's logical, it's rational, and it's analytical. Your adult ego state is your problem solver. It reacts to the probability and it makes decisions. So think about that. As a critical parent, I can look at breakfast this morning and go, banana split plus a sugary Coke plus whipped cream on top, and go, no, don't do that. The child in me has the want to, I want that. It's the adult that analyzes that and goes, Chris, it's a Thursday. You got to go to work. Versus, hey, Chris, it's a Sunday and you're at brunch with your family and you've got nothing to do the rest of the day. Go for it. Right? There's the want to, and there's the have to, and then there's the analytics in the middle. That's the adult. The adult is logical, rational, and analytical. So, why am I telling you this? Why am I getting this deep? The adult is what we have to be in a sales conversation. We can't be the critical parent. We can't be the curious child. It's not about what we want. It's not about what we have to. We have to actually be in the middle and be analytic of their wants, their needs, and our wants and our needs. Remember, our update is constantly, our tape is constantly being updated in the adult phase. The feelings we had recorded as a child, it's not changing them. The feels we had recorded as a child for the parent, they're not changing. The adult is not going to replace the parent or child. It's not going to change what recorded is in there. It's just new data. So let's talk about buyers now and why this parent-adult-child relationship is so important. Every decision your buyer's going to make starts with the child. It's the want to, right? Most of the decisions are not going to be based on the have to. Most of the decisions are going to start with the want to. The child is where many of our decisions originate. All kinds of decisions, but especially buying decisions. The child is that little 6-year-old in us who is feeling a particular emotion at a particular time that says, I want this. I want that. I want to do that. Or perhaps I don't want this or I don't want that. The child ego state is what our prospects have that starts the buying process. Right? I want that. It's emotional. At this point, the parent isn't going to judge whether a purchase is appropriate or not. And the adult isn't going to weigh in the pluses and minuses of the purchase or the cons of the purchase until the child wants a product. There has to be a want before we can make a sale. Dave, you're not going to walk up to random people and convince them to buy a new home if they don't want one. Right? Kaleo, you're not just going to walk up to random people on the street and try to convince them they need health care. There has to be I want support. I can't do this on my own. Right? Kurt and Matt, prospect as much as you want, but until someone raises their hand and says, I would like to talk to you about a kitchen, you're not just going to go knocking on doors telling people, I do kitchens. Would you like to buy a new kitchen from me? There has to be that child ego state, the want. So why would a child want a product or service? Psychology, the psychologist part of this. People take action, buying, purchasing, to have something, to know something, or to be able to do something, or to be known for something. David, how much of real estate that you sell is ego-based?
A lot.
Bingo. I want to be known for something. I want to have something, right? Kurt and Matt have heard me tell the story a million times about the carpet that I bought for our house. There was no ego in there for me. I was not trying to impress the neighbors with new carpet. I was not trying to impress our family and friends that I could afford a $10,000 purchase in our house. I wanted to make my wife happy because she hated the carpet, right? Until it got that point where I went, Jesus, this carpet Anne-Marie really hates. I could care less about the carpet. I'm not a showy, emotional, like, look at how much expensive stuff I have kind of guy. The want has to be there. That's the child state, the want. And it can be anything. It can be greed, it can be envy, it can be curiosity, it can be fear. All those emotional decisions are in the child state. We have to make sure that they want something before we can sell it to them. So this is the important part of the buyer-seller relationship. Getting that prospect into the child state to express what their desire is, what their objective is, and why they want this. And what we do in Sandler, this is the pain step. What are we trying to solve for? David, I'll go back to you. Think of a million different reasons for why someone wants to buy a new house. Ego, space, school districts, upsizing, downsizing, status, right? All those things come into the want part of it. Every buying decision starts with the child. That's the pain we're trying to solve for, is the want. We need to get them emotionally involved in the purchase, getting them emotionally involved in the sale. We need to get the child to express that desire. That is the objective of when we talk about pain and what pain we're trying to solve for. What's their emotional take on this? If we get them emotionally involved, it doesn't mean we have to be emotional. Remember, people buy from people they like, people buy from people they trust. We don't have to be as emotional as they are, but we have to be empathetic to what their emotions are.
Chris, I have a great example of this. I was doing an open house recently, and it was a single family home out in the suburbs, which isn't usually my normal forte, but family came in, and it was a mother, father, a couple kids, and the grandfather was there as well. And as soon as the father started talking about how he loved the space, and he started talking about holidays, how he could actually see himself and his family around the fireplace at Christmas, I knew we were getting an offer in.
Yeah.
And all I had to do from that point was continue to play on. You can see your grandkids in the backyard playing on the swing set. You can see your family around the dining room table at the holidays, and just played to those emotions that he already exhibited.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to what I said. Getting prospects emotionally involved in the sale doesn't necessarily mean having to be emotional. They don't have to be unhappy or angry or fearful or happy or ecstatic. They don't have to express an emotion. All we need is the child in them saying, I want it. The child ego state saying, I want it. And that's what we need to figure out, is why your prospect's child is saying, I want it. It could be because you helped them discover something that they didn't know before they met you. Maybe you help them see the situation from a different perspective, uncover some doubt of an existing strategy. Kaleo, I don't know how many of your prospects are insurance paid all or nothing, and how many might be paying out of pocket private pay, but showing them the options, showing them what they might not have known before they came in this, you help them focus on the root cause of their problem. Their child is saying, I want to know what this person knows. I want this person to tell me what they have to offer. Whatever the emotion is, you will not close a sale unless the first emotional component is met, and that's the child ego state.
I like to ask the question, oftentimes, is if you could change your work comp program, anything in it, what would you change? Or what is your dream, what does your dream program look like?
Yeah.
Trying to appeal to that, emotional child. If I had a wish list, this is what I'd do. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. So, Matt, you know this, right? People bring you a lot of the I wants. I want a wine fridge. I want granite. I want a skylight. I want better lighting. I want. That's the child ego state. Here's where the parent and the adult become involved. David Sandler, again, I'm not cool. I didn't come up with this. Sandler recognized that simply hooking the prospect's child wasn't only the answer. This is the second part of the most famous observation. People make decisions emotionally. That's part one. The second part, they justify those decisions intellectually. At some point, the prospect is going to move from child to parent, and they're going to start to ask questions internally in their brain, like, do we really need this? Am I acting too impulsively? Can we afford this? Should I really be making this investment? Is this really the right decision? Right? This is the parent part of this. And what's more, the parent part of this, do I want it? Do I really need it? Are we sure we're not acting too impulsively? This is where the adult comes into play, referee between the I want it and the do I need it part of it. The adult is the check-in point that says, can we afford this? Are there better alternatives? Should we get another quote? Should we look at more options? So here's the thing. If somebody brings you the challenge with the child, the I want, and they get past the parent that says, can we, should we, and they get to the adult and they analyze it, and the adult says, go for it, you get the sale. Right? The adult has played the referee between the I want part of this. So as we go back to, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Here we go. We're going to talk about the submarine. Sandler system, the budget and decision-making steps. These are, so the pain step is the I want. The budget and decision-making steps is when the adult comes in. This is the intellectual aspect of the decision. Can they justify the investment? These are qualifying steps. For the prospect, for the person trying to buy from you, this is where the parent and the adult are involved in the process. This is where they understand the buying decisions. So if I go back here, parent, adult, child, right? As salespeople, in that book, Games People Play, we need to understand where they are in each step. And we need to react to them not as a critical parent, but as an adult, helping them understand their emotions and justifying their decision. Think about this. Think about the last big luxury item you have. Actually, I can give you a real world example. I really want a big new damn TV. There's nothing wrong with my current TV. It's HD. I get to watch Spartan football and basketball on it. Big Michigan State fan. Right? The kids get to watch their stuff. My wife's obsessed with that British baking show. It works. I want a big damn TV. I want the sound bar. Right? That's the child in me, the want. I want. The parent in me is saying, the old one's fine. The old one works. What's wrong with it? Being critical. The adult in me is going, you've got money in the bank. The adult in me is saying, you can afford this. The adult in me is also going, well, the old one does work, and you really want a new door wall more than you want a new TV. Okay? This is where your clients are. The child is where they bring you the want. The parent is what they analyze it with, and that the adult is really the decision maker that plays referee between the adult and child. Now think about this in your world. David, think about real estate. That adult part is where they can justify, can they afford it? That adult part is where they justify the want versus the need. And you know that even if, so here's an example. I don't know. I don't want a new computer. I don't want a new laptop, right? This one that I have here, it's fine. If somebody tried to sell me a new laptop and I don't have the want there, it doesn't matter that I can afford it. It doesn't matter that it's an upgrade of what I have now. It doesn't matter that it runs at a faster rate, a faster bit, clearer screen, any of that stuff. If I don't want it, I'm not buying it. That's where the child ego state starts all this. We have to understand if there's the want. I want, I want, I want. We can dig a hell of a lot deeper into this. Kaleo, you asked for the book, Eric Byrne. I'll send you a link to it on Amazon or wherever. But we have to make sure that we're meeting them not as a critical parent or a nurturing parent. We're meeting them as the adult. Kurt, you raised your hand. You got to go?
Muted.
I gotta leave in about 5-10 minutes.
All right. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to cover next, you've heard before. Disc, auditory, whether we're kinetic, visual, aesthetic. So if you got to go, you've already heard this stuff before, and I'm recording it anyway.
Okay, I'm gonna head out then.
Hey, praying for you, buddy. Everything's going to go well.
Thank you. Thanks. See
All
ya.
right. Beat it. Tell Kelly I said hi.
Will do.
All right. Where was I? Share screen. All right. So let's talk about how people communicate. So we know that we have to have an emotional buy-in, a want to make a sale. We also have talked about, how we communicate, body language, tone, words. Here's the next part, PSD, not PTSD, PSD. PSD stands for our primary sensory dominance. So PSD is how we prefer to communicate. So all of us, we experience the world around us through our senses, right? Smell, touch, taste, feel, sight, right? We experience the world around us through all of those. But the three that we primarily do are sight, sound, and touch. More than anything else, sight, sound, and touch. Each of us uses all three of these. We each have a natural preference for one of them, though. I'll say again, we each have a natural preference for sight, sound, or touch. This is called our primary sensory dominance. This affects how a person takes in the world and how they organize their thoughts and memories about the world. So why are we talking about this? If we can identify a prospect's preferred mode of communication in terms that are consistent with that communication mode, we enhance our bonding and rapport. People buy from people they like, people buy from people like themselves. If we can understand how they want to communicate and we meet them at the communication style, we're much better off. So each one of us falls into this, okay? So is there a page in the book on this one? Write this down. 55% of the population are visual as their primary. 20% are auditory, 25% are kinesthetic. David and Matt, with you guys dealing with homes, homeowners, a lot of people are visual, okay? These are the show me people. They process their data and their environment through pictures. The visual people tend to talk fast. The visual people tend to think fast and move fast. Visual people can be very animated, use gestures while talking, right? Visual people tend to not like to be interrupted. They're very visual in their conversation terms. I'd like to see that. Can you show me that? Right? Visual people is 55% of the population, but they're not all visual. Second one is auditory. These are the tell me people. They think in words, sounds, and dialogues. They are representing in their minds conversations. Their ideas in their minds are conversations, not visuals. Auditory people tend to speak in even rhythms, even tones, very steady rhythms and tones. Auditory people, they tend to want to be comfortable with people they're speaking with, and they're most comfortable with people that speak at the same rate and the same tone that they do. Traditionally, it's a little bit slower than the visual people. But here's the other thing with them. They are very bored by monotonous speech. They use auditory terms in conversation. So while the visual person says stuff like, show me if I'm seeing this, what I'm seeing, right? The auditory person uses terms like, so if I'm hearing you right, it sounds to me like what I need to hear, right? They use auditory terms in conversation. Last group, 25% of the population, kinesthetic. These are the feelings people. These are the touch people. These are the ones that are influenced by how they feel about their reality. They make their judgments on the basis of their inner feelings, their comfort versus discomfort. They breathe slowly and deeply. They tend to have lower pitched voices and speak at a slow pace to make sure that they're conveying the right feelings. So, David, if I came to you as a buyer and I said, I know everything looks like a mess right now, but let me see if I can give you a clear picture of what I'm trying to show you. Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic?
Visual.
Yeah. I talk a little bit faster. I know it looks like a mess right now. If I can give you a clear picture of what I'm trying to show you, right? Visual.
Right. We really find that we have to help somebody see that vision sometimes as well. You know, sometimes a place can be a blank slate, and we have to try to give them a mental picture of what it could be. And that's in our industry why we find virtual staging to be a huge thing, because we want somebody, when they look at a picture that has no furniture in it, no furnishings, things like that, we want them to be able to, in their mind's eye, see what it could be.
Yeah. It's the visual part of it. Here's the kinesthetic one. I know it feels like things are at a dead standstill, but I feel like we can break through this and keep moving forward if we're trying to get where we want to go. You ever heard the word feel? What do you think the person is? Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic.
Yeah. How about this one? I know it doesn't sound right, but hear me out.
Auditory.
Yeah. So when you're asking questions and you're trying to get people to really give you an insight into what they are, listen to the words they use. Man, if somebody comes to you and says, you know what I'm looking for versus what I'm hoping for, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm hoping for is more of a sign that they have to have emotional buy-in. They have to see themselves in it. What I'm looking for is more of a visual person. What I want to hear, right? Auditory person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sell by email, right? But you think about this. Kaleo, do you guys have brochures or a folder or a pamphlet or some sort of marketing materials?
Absolutely.
Some people need to see that, right? When I sell training, I try to not go with flyers and brochures. I try to understand what they're looking for and to see if I have a solution for it. But the reality is, some people just, they've never bought anything in a corporate environment without a presentation and a PowerPoint, right? So I have one. If they're that visual learner, their preferred sensory dominance is visual, I'll throw together a PowerPoint for them. I'll put our logo in there and all kinds of logos of our clients and all that stuff. It's not how I prefer to sell, but if they're a visual person and they have to have that, want that, need that, I'll send it to them. A lot of times the people that I've sold to that have been on the fence, the kinesthetic people, they're just not sure if training is right for them. I have them crash a class. Come sit in one of my classes. See if you can, see yourself in taking this kind of training, this kind of environment. If they're that kinesthetic learner, they'll do that. So that's why you do open houses. Put themselves in that environment. See if they can feel themselves in that home, right? That's why we might have some of those examples of come to some of our previous works or come to the showroom to touch and feel and experience the cabinets, right, Matt? If they're a kinesthetic person, they might not just get by in pictures. They might have to actually have the feeling of what's going on. Khalil, they might need to meet the case manager or meet the nurse before they make it. Like, I don't know, but sometimes they just have that need to experience it because the child in them says, I want, and now the adult is trying to figure out as the referee what they need. This is where we got to figure out what their preferred communication message is: visual, auditory, or kinesthetic.
Well, we'll do test cases. We've done pilot programs. Just try us out with the on your first responders. If we're dealing with a city or a county, let us just try us out with your police department. See how the police respond to it. A lot of times, the other departments follow what the police will do.
Yeah. And for you and I, there's that little aspect of try it with a little bit before you make the full investment. Send me your 2 sales leaders, your sales managers, and if they like it, then we'll bring in your other 11 salespeople, or try it with your police and fire, and if they like it, we'll introduce all departments. David, unfortunately, I think in your world, there isn't much of a try it. They can't rent the home for 90 days before they decide to buy the home.
True.
Man, you can't just redesign a little bit of their kitchen, right? Like they're not going to just bring in like, well, show us you can paint it first before we demolish the entire thing, right? There's not a lot of that in there.
No.
All right, we got 18 minutes left. And this is one of my favorite topics, DISC personality profiles. Matt, you've already done yours. Kaleo, you've done yours. David, are you familiar with this personality profiles?
I mean, I've done one previously, but not recently.
So I'm going to go through this high level. Kaleo, you and I want to book an hour with you to review yours specifically to dig deeper into it. Matt, you know you are. David, we'll get you to take one too.
Okay.
Or an updated one. So everyone, if you think about our personality and our behaviors, here's the high level part of this. Everybody is task oriented or people oriented. Those are the two axes going X, Y. We're task people or we're people. The other axis, introverted versus extroverted. Right? Here's the thing with this personality profiles. This is just what people are most comfortable with. Okay, I want to say that again. This is only what you are most comfortable with in your behavioral style and your communication style. None of these 4 different categories are better or worse than another one. D's aren't wrong, S's aren't right. C's aren't better than I's aren't better than C's. Nobody is right or wrong, better or worse. It's just what we're most comfortable with. It is what we naturally go to when we communicate with people. It's what we naturally go to when we're making decisions. So, task versus people, extroverted versus introverted. DISC stands for dominant, influencer, steady relator, or compliance. All of us are at least 2 of these categories. Nobody is a single category. Some people are 3. I've yet to see all 4. And I always make the joke, if you're all 4, you're a serial killer. So let's go through these one at a time. Okay, we're going to start top right with DISC as the dominant person. So, dominance. These people tend to be direct and very brief and very to the point. Dominant people, again, task-oriented extroverts. They focus on the task and they tend to stick to business. They use a results-oriented approach to things. They like to identify opportunities and challenges. And they want to make sure that they win. They're very competitive. They tend to use a logical approach to things and don't get very emotional with it. You have to give them the high points. They will touch on the high points, but they might not dig too deep into the data. If you're dealing with Ds, give them space. Don't touch them. They're not a touchy-feely person. If you're dealing with a D, don't be emotional. Try not to dominate them. But they tend to act quickly. They want to act quickly and make decisions. So dominants are extroverted. They're very opinionated people who need to take action. They like to be in charge of the situation. If they aren't in control, they are uncomfortable. They get bored if they're not challenged. Why am I telling you this? Because dominant people at Ds, they don't want to do small talk. They want to win, they want to get ahead, and they're not natural team players. They tend to be organized, direct, and to the point. When you think of politics, sports, pop culture, news, can you think of a D as I went through all those people? You're the first class that didn't pull out the elephant in the room.
Trump.
Yep. D's want the bottom line. D's want to be in control. D's want to make the decisions. D's are the opinionated people. So when you're communicating with a D, am I sharing my screen? Share screen. High D's. Tell them the bottom line. Don't give them a lot of choices. Give them fewer choices. Let them decide how to proceed. With D's, make the ground rules and tasks clear from the start with them about what you're trying to accomplish. Present logically and make clear upfront contracts with them. If we are here, we will do this. If there's a problem with a D, deal with it immediate. They are very impatient. And ultimately with Ds, they don't want to know why something was screwed up. They just want to know it's going to be fixed. Don't deal with accusations or ultimatums. Just deal with the problem at hand. Ds want to be involved in the solution. They want to take credit for the solution. If a D is involved in developing a solution, they will be more satisfied. Ds are at their best when they can reach their own conclusions. So be prepared to listen to them. Ds are always eager to share their opinions and their ideas. They want to be in charge. They're action-oriented and they're opinionated, so let them. If you're dealing with a D in a selling process, they might seem pushy. And Ds can be very emotional and may need to learn to manage their expressions with clients and colleagues. I's. I stands for influencer. I's are about the friendship. I's are about being liked. Right? These are the extroverted people. They're personable and trusting. They like to talk. They like to interact. They like to be the center of attention. They don't like to make decisions. They like to leave those to others. They want to be liked. They're eager team players. They tend to be a lot more creative, humorous, but they tend to also be very disorganized. They're so focused on being liked that they forget about the details. They're very impulsive. They tend to rely on their feelings and they make decisions emotionally. They tend to not look at the data to make their decisions. When dealing with I's, allow time for socialization. Like I said with the D's, don't make small talk, make the small talk with the I's. Keep it light, have fun with them. Ask for feelings and opinions. Matt will make fun of me because every time I see Kurt, I give him a big bear hug, right? He and I are both I's. We do that bro hug where we slap hands and we, do that kind of thing. I's are okay with touch. I's want a warm, friendly environment. I's don't want to be ignored. I's need to know that they're liked. So set aside time for chatting with them and making the small talk. Let them speak. Give them recognition when they are speaking. When you're dealing with them, talk about people and feelings. I's tend to really thrive in an environment where they get to set their own pace and proceed in their own way. One-on-one time is good. They need to be social. They need to be friendly. They need to be liked. Anyone think of I's? Pop culture, politics, news, media. Let's go back to politics. Bill Clinton was an I. Had to be liked by everybody. Had to be playing the saxophone on Arsenio. Had to be the center of attention, right? Reaching across the aisle. Everyone likes me. Okay. They're very optimistic people. S stands for steady relator. Steady relators are introverted, but they're people. I always say with steady relators, it's all about the trust. If you build trust with them and you keep that trust, it will walk on coals for you. Steady relators are amiable and patient people. They need to move at their own pace to avoid conflict. If you're trying to sell something to an S and you try to push them to a deadline or decision, they're going to tell you what you want to hear and then disappear on you because they don't like confrontation. They don't like changes or surprises. If you tell an S something and it's going to change, you have to reach out to them and tell them that it is changing and why it is changing. You can't let it be a surprise for them. They are very deliberate and can appear slow to make decisions. High S's are incredibly loyal. long-term relationships, long-term commitments. And they don't really offer their true feelings unless they really feel trusted, and then they'll share everything with you. Okay. If you're selling to an S, be patient. Build their trust first. You're not going to hard close an S, or you're just going to turn them off. Draw out their opinions. Once you get their opinions, present your issues logically. Whereas Ds want to make a decision on their own, S's want to make a decision with you. They're going to want to have discussions. They're going to want to see how solutions will benefit them personally. They're not selfish people, but their security is how things affect them. Clearly define all areas when dealing with them. Involve them in the planning. If you're dealing with an S, slow it down. Give them more time. Provide any information that they need, because they have to be secure and emotionally invested before they make a commitment. If I had a takeaway with S's, S's are some of the best clients and customers you can have, because if you've built their trust, they will lean on you and follow your direction. They can also be a real pain in the ass, because you know that this is the right decision for them, and they just still need to think it over, right? With a D, a good, firm, solid upfront contract, these are the outcomes that are acceptable. D's buy into that. All right, got it, go, let's do it. S's still need to use the upfront contract, because they need to have kind of a deadline, but it's got to be something that you agree to as a deadline. You can't force them into this decision. Anyone think of any S's in their world? Past clients? People in their family? My wife is an S. Here's the stereotypical example of an S. Hey, honey, what are we going to dinner tonight? I don't know. What are you in the mood for? Right? They don't want to make a decision without buying an input. They don't want to make a decision that's going to upset somebody else. Last one, C's, people that are compliant. Again, no one is right, no one is wrong, no one is better, no one is worse. Not all CEOs are Ds, right? Not all salespeople are Is. But stereotypes save time, people. Most of your accountants, your engineers, your math people are Cs. Cs are cautious, and they're very detail-oriented. They can be perfectionists when it comes to the details. Their standards is to do things by the book. Their thing is to get one more fact in search of the perfect answer. You can't bullshit Cs. For them, it's about the math. For them, it's about the data. For them, it's about the facts. They might be slow or unwilling to commit to something because they don't have all the data yet. They're very analytical. They're very orderly. And they're thinking and they're acting. For the C's, it's all about the facts and figures. Here's an example of I's versus C's. And Matt's heard me say this before. You can go to an I and tell them, hey, man, I really appreciate you putting all this work into the deal. We really, really like you, but the other guy's just cheaper. I mean, we like you better, but we got to go with the other guy. And an I will go, oh, I didn't get the deal, but they liked me. Right? The I is all about the friendship and the relationship. The C, on the other hand, the C is all about the data and the facts and the work. The work has to be right. You can walk up to an C and go, you know what? You're a real asshole, but your price is cheaper. And they'll go, damn right it is. Right? There's no emotion in it for them. It's facts, it's data. So with C's, don't make small talk. C's don't want small talk. They want to get to the data and the facts. Okay, with C's, be patient, because they're going to have to analyze all the data before they make a decision. They're going to have to analyze every argument from all sides. For them, it's a task. For them, it's a project. It's not emotional for them. They tend to focus on quality. They tend to focus on price. They tend to want traditional things and not look for new ideas. Don't touch eyes or C's. A lot of times they won't even make eye contact with you. Be patient and slow down with them. Don't make it personal. Explain things carefully. And again, with C's, you can't bullshit them. You can't talk in ranges or vague numbers. Can you guys think of people in your world that might fall in each of these buckets? Can you think where you fall into each of these buckets, or which two you might fall into? Right? I'm an IS. Right? It's probably why I got into coaching. Relationships, trust, being the center of attention, helping people, being friendly. And of course, that means that my details suck. I'm actively working on cleaning out my inbox, my LinkedIn inbox, my desk, because I've got 75 Post-it notes and pieces of paper, and I have notes over here and notes over there and a to-do list here, right? I drive C's crazy because they need the data and the facts, and I'm always one day behind on what they need. Think about this. When I'm dealing with the C, my biggest client in Texas, I told you about, that is the non-destructive testing equipment. They're all scientists. They are not the kind of client I should land because it's all about the data and the facts for them. And I'm not that guy. But I understood what they wanted. I mirrored their personality. I mirrored their tone. I spoke with them in the data and the facts that they were looking for rather than the emotional part of it. It's my biggest sale of the year. This stuff works. All right. So it's 11:29. Big concepts today, huh?
Yeah.
Big concepts on transactional analysis. Who starts every sale?
Child.
Child. And what does the child do? They
Want.
want. Okay. Let's talk about the three elements of communication. What are the three elements of communication, David?
You stumped me on that one, Chris.
Tone, words, physiology. Remember, whenever it comes to that kind of stuff, think about I killed the cat. Right? Our physiology is more important than our tone. Our tone is more important than our words. Everyone know what their homework assignment is for tonight?
Active listening.
Go paraphrase or restate something. Could be your partner, could be your wife, could be your kid, could be your roommate, could be your boss, could be your subordinate. I don't care, but I want everyone that comes back next week to say, yeah, actually I practiced active listening a couple times and here's what happened. You will get a good story out of it. Because typically somebody that you know that's close to you, like my wife, when I do it to her, will go, are you using that Sandler bullshit on me? Right? So if I'm hearing you right, okay. Listen for their words. If they're visual people, they'll say stuff like, what I need you to show me. If they're kinesthetic people, they'll say stuff like, well, what I'm feeling is, okay? A lot of concepts today. What's next week? Chapter 3, we get into, after bonding and rapport, the upfront contract. Guys, I will share this with you. The upfront contract and getting it and living by it was the biggest game changer in my sales career. Next week, the upfront contract was the biggest thing that got me from having a lot of opportunities to having a lot of sales. No pressure. Be here next week.
Yeah.
Once around the room.
Helping us huge. So
yeah. Once around the room. Give me one takeaway from today, one thing you learned, lesson learned. Matt, starting with you.
55% of people are visual, 20% auditory, and 25% kinesthetic.
Bingo. David?
Nonverbal communication is huge. It's the way most people communicate and perceive communication.
Kaleo, take us home.
That the child is the wanter in the beginning of a sale. There needs to
Gotta
be
have the
want.
want. Gentlemen, I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me teach you. And I'm always looking for referrals. Find one person that you want me to talk to that might benefit from this as well. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good week,
Right
guys.
on.
See you next week.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
guys.